Good evening. I'm Andy Gomez, and on behalf of our director at the Institute, Dr. Jaime Suchiliki, and the rest of the staff, let me welcome you, particularly those of you that might be here for the first time. This event is being co-sponsored not only by the Institute, but also by the Cuban Heritage Collection, whose director is here, Dr. Esperanza de Varona, and the Center for Hemispheric Policy under Susan Kaufman Purcell. And this lecture is the inaugural lecture sponsored by the Gosueta Foundation, and we're very grateful. Tonight is a very special because we welcome one of our own back, a friend, a scholar, and now the Deputy Secretary of Defense, Dr. Frank Mora. I want to extend a special welcome to the Mora family, but particularly to your parents. Frank and I go back many years, as many of us, and we were counting how many of us have been Dr. Suchiliki's students. And Jaime reminded me he had been at the university 43 years. That's right. Frank and I have collaborated on many academic projects, as well as enjoying many UN away football games, and we won't go into those details. While I served as Dean in International Studies, I had the privilege of bringing Frank down on sabbatical, where he completed his book on Paraguay. Allow me now to briefly tell you a little bit about Frank's extensive career. And I have to start by saying that after graduating from Belen Jesuit High School in Miami, Frank took his athletic abilities to George Washington University, where he received his BA, came back to Miami, where he received his MA in Inter-American Studies, and his PhD in International Affairs. He also has completed studies at the universities in Peru and Costa Rica. As the Deputy Assistant Secretary of Defense for Western Hemisphere Affairs, one of the three components of his office is for Homeland Defense, America's security affairs, and in his position, he oversees policy issues, defense relations involving countries in the Hemisphere, as well as the U.S. government funding of hemispheric defense cooperation and the integration of U.S. Northern Command and the U.S. Southern Command here in Miami. Today, as many of us are skeptical about our politicians and public policymakers, Dr. Mora stands above them all. When I think of Frank, I think of words like integrity, high morals, high ethical standards, and in an intellectual capacity like no one. However, let me tell you that Frank owes his position to me. And let me explain very clearly. When you are appointed to a high-level position in the government sends around investigators to interview colleagues and friends. Frank, I can assure you I did not tell them everything. But I can also assure you I will keep it as a secret.
You were under oath, actually.
I was under oath. 2 weeks ago, and you don't know this part. 2 weeks ago, I called Frank's wife, Yvette, and I said, Evie, if you were introducing Frank, what would you say about him? And this is what she had to say. In spite of his many accomplishments and demanding schedule, Frank's family remains his priority. Husband and father to Daniela, who's now 12, and Frankie the Terror, who's now 5. Given the opportunity, his family would simply introduce him to you today as the most supportive of husbands and fathers who makes all things happen. Without further ado, Dr. Frank Mora.